Hi, I'm Chuck Colson with this week's 2-minute warning. The Manhattan Declaration, which I signed this past weekend, is the most important document I've ever put my name to because it calls the church to action in a time of great spiritual struggle. The Manhattan Declaration serves notice that we will not stop preaching the truth no matter what the cost. You know, I think back to when I joined the Marine Corps during the Korean War. I went through the most intensive training of my life. I gave it everything I had. Before we got to Korea, the armistice came. I watched the whole character of the Marine Corps change. A peacetime mentality took over. I was in Providence, Rhode Island a few weeks ago with a great pastor, Steve Boyce. And he said to me, Chuck, you know, the problem is we don't seem to understand in the church the gravity of what's happening around us. He said, I preach about it, but we don't seem to get it. Well, it hit me then. What's happened is the church has missed its reading of the times. It's taken on a peacetime mentality when we live in a time of huge spiritual warfare. I'm not talking about politics. I'm not talking about imposing our views on anyone. I am talking about getting serious in the church, about discipling people to understand what it means to live the faith, to do spiritual combat, to help them understand the sanctity of human life, the institution of marriage, and religious freedom, all of which are under terrible assault. And once we thoroughly understand our faith, then we must learn how to present the truth winsomely. That's how we fight. You see, our weapons of war are love, peace, justice, care for others. I've learned this in prison fellowship over these 34 years, which has been a great witness as I've gone through the prisons of the love of Christ reaching those whom society would sooner forget. Well, last December at Georgetown University, Secretary of State Hillary Clinton delivered a speech where she ever so subtly engaged in newspeak, and I can only conclude she knew what she was saying. Yeah, okay, I can hear some of you saying, Chuck, you're going a little far on this one. I only wish I were. Twice in her speech, Mrs. Clinton referred to freedom of worship. But freedom of worship is not the same as freedom of religion, which is guaranteed in the Bill of Rights. Writing in the Denver Catholic Register, theologian George Weigel hit the nail on the head. Let me read it. Religious freedom includes the right to preach and evangelize, to make religiously informed moral arguments in the public square, and to conduct the affairs of one's religious community without undue interference from the state. If religious freedom only involves the freedom to worship, then there's religious freedom in Saudi Arabia. Look, the distinction between freedom of worship and freedom of religion is critical. Thus, freedom of religion is from God, not a gift from the Secretary of State, or not a concession by government. No Secretary of State, no government has the right to take it or define it away. What's going on today is a steady drumbeat of attacks on the Christian church and on freedom of religion. This administration has redefined it. They're calling it freedom of worship. Freedom of worship is a private act. The Chinese communists allow that. Freedom of religion is living your faith in public. Right now, the Department of Health and Human Services has told the Catholic Church that it must include in all of its insurance policies for its employees the availability of contraception and abortifacients. So it's basically saying that the Catholic Church has to violate its conscience, violate its doctrine. We have come to the point, I say this very soberly, when if there isn't a dramatic change in circumstances, we as Christians may well be called upon to stand in civil disobedience against the actions of our own government. That would break my heart as a former Marine captain loving my country. But I love my God more. And you all may have to face that. Believe me, folks, I wish I didn't have to say over and over, but it's true. Our religious liberties are in grave danger. More and more, we are being asked to leave our faith at the temple door, but we cannot comply because God speaks to every area of life. That's why today I want to make a special announcement. On April 28th, in homes and churches across the country, thousands of citizens will gather to watch Breaking the Spiral of Silence, a DVD featuring the likes of Robert George and Eric Metaxas and Bishop Harry Jackson and myself, many more. We will be laying the groundwork for building a grassroots movement in defense of religious liberty, as well as the sanctity of life and traditional marriage. Will you join us? You can find out more about the special event at breakingthespiralofsilence.com. Folks, let's vow together. We will never leave our faith at the temple door. I'm Chuck+Colson. That's this week's 2-Minute Warning. And we're going to be living out the good news for all to see. Are you ready? Join us.